Games rated E to E10 plus. Welcome to Nintendo Power Podcast. This episode, we jump into battle with Joker, the new fighter in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. My name is Chris Slate, and joining me today are JC Rodrigo from Nintendo Treehouse. Hi, JC.
What's up, Chris?
Good to have you back again. Thanks for coming on the show.
For sure.
And Joe Bustos from the social media team here at Nintendo of America. Hi, Joe.
Hey, how's it going?
Great. Thanks for coming on the show, both of you. And, now we just had an episode at the start of this month, but I couldn't wait a whole other month to talk about Joker joining Super Smash Bros. Ultimate as the first new character in the Fighters Pass DLC. So we're kind of doing a special episode mid-month here. And so let's dig in and learn about this cool new character, who he is, how he plays in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, and I want to start with who is Joker, because I think, this character has never appeared on a Nintendo platform before, but I know that he has a ton of fans, so I'm kind of learning about him myself. And so we've got a Joker superfan on here today with you, Joe, and I was hoping you could kind of start us off, and for those of us who aren't already familiar with Joker or Persona 5, which is the game he originally comes from, I believe, you can tell me if I'm wrong, maybe prime us a little bit on why people should be so excited to have this character in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate.
Yeah, Joker is the protagonist character in Persona 5, and, this character is someone who kind of starts out with a little bit of a mysterious background. So he's kind of this transfer student that comes into this big city. He's never gone to school in a big city before. And you don't really know what kind of led him there. And over time you start to learn a little bit about his background. He's kind of treated as a delinquent, and but he's really a silent character, so you don't really get to know a lot about him. So over time, he really starts to gain some friends at school. He gets involved in kind of some weird ongoings with some of the teachers at school, some adults that are really up to no good. And he finds himself kind of embroiled in this drama and gains some supernatural powers. Basically, he's able to activate his persona. And really, what happens within the game is they're trying to change the perception of these adults who are really up to no good, really change their hearts and kind of get them to either confess what they're doing wrong or really kind of just right the wrongs that they've been doing. And he kind of makes all these friends, and together, over the course of the game, he leads this gang. They call them the Phantom Thieves of Hearts, and they really get up to all these different shenanigans, taking down some of these really bad people throughout the streets of Tokyo and into this world they call the metaverse. So they dive into the metaverse, which is this supernatural area, and they're really just going throughout these palaces, stealing the treasure within the souls of these really kind of devious villains throughout the game. So it's a really great story. Joker as a character himself, again, he's a silent protagonist, but I think the cool thing about him is he's kind of hiding all this personality behind him, and I think you really see that in the style of the game. The Persona franchise is super stylish. There's a ton of different little touches, like everything from the menus to the music of the game, which is just spectacular, and I think fans of Smash are really going to get to experience that. And I think that's really the cool thing about Joker is he's bringing all that style, all kind of that flair from the Persona franchise, and he's kind of representing it in one really kind of great representation of the series and of the character himself.
You mentioned that style and that flair. Now, like I said, I haven't played Persona 5 myself, but when I think back to the reveal trailer for when Joker was first announced to be coming to Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, it had a very distinct visual style to it, and I believe that's also the style that at least I think I have seen the intro to Persona 5 that had that same really cool style. And I think in that reveal trailer, I heard lots of different voices, and I think that's kind of his group or his team. I forget what you said the name was.
Phantom Thieves of Hearts. So yeah. It's a little bit of a mouthful. But.
So he's seen, whenever I have seen him, he seems to kind of be paired with those partners. So it seems like the team aspect of that is pretty important to his character.
Yeah, it's really interesting, right? Because Joker is a single character, but at the same time, he's really representing this ensemble cast from this RPG series and this game that's, over 100 hours long, right? So there's a lot to represent in there. And they really bring in the whole team and represent everyone from Morgana, who's this kind of small supernatural cat character, to, his just fellow classmates who are there with him. And they all have kind of their own take on their Persona characters. So, really to see it in Smash kind of represented in this super cool way where everybody kind of gets their time in the limelight a little bit is really cool. And I think that's one of the things I'm most excited about, is just kind of seeing the little touches of how they brought in not only Joker, but just the entire Persona franchise in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, someone who's just learning about the character myself, all those little elements seem very interesting. And JC, I know that you probably haven't played as much of Persona 5 as Joe, but we talked to you before, and you did mention that you were familiar with the game. So what about the character of Joker jumps out to you, even beyond getting into how he's implemented in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate? What is it about him, I don't know, his style, or just something that character exudes that brings a unique element to the roster here in Smash?
I think Joe nailed it with the style. Even comparing him to the rest of the cast, like that's the first thing I kind of noticed when I was messing with Joker, is just everything is stylish, right? You have his, even like the way he jumps, the way he kind of even looks, so that his still images, the still art assets that are in the game, it just looks super cool, right? And what's interesting is, since, you're right, I did play a little bit of Persona 5, so I'm kind of familiar, aside from memorizing that he's got, he drinks coffee, or, he's got a dirty room. He a lot of the style, a lot of the details really came into Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. I mean, the dev team and Mr. Sakurai did just an incredible job, and even kudos to Atlas for giving the dev team that character to work with, because man, there's a lot of detail in there I think a lot of fans are going to really appreciate. So yeah, style, and so much more style, more than you'd think.
JC, yeah, I think one of the big parts of bringing that style across is the music of the series. One of the things in Smash is that in the stage is, if you choose a different music track from Persona 3 or Persona 4, you get to hear some of the tracks from the other games, and then also the stage kind of changes color a little bit. And for me, as a fan of Persona, hearing that music from Persona 3, Persona 4, and then of course from Persona 5, it's really exciting that other people will get to hear either some of those tracks for the first time, or just be able to fight alongside those. And for myself, I watch a ton of competitive Smash. I play a ton of Smash, so just being able to have the Persona tracks in there is really Persona fans' dream come true.
Yeah, I think I think this is the general approach with everyone who's going to be in the Fighters Pass DLC, is you don't just get the character, right? But you get music, you get a stage, you get something that really encapsulates, kind of the whole world around that character. So if you're someone who's already a big fan of Joker, I'm sure you like to see all those little touches. And for someone like me who's eager to learn more, you really get a full kind of exposure, which is great.
Yeah, definitely. I think the thing that Persona fans and Smash fans will really get to experience is just that overall kind of representation. Whether you've never played Persona before, I think this is something you'll see, and you'll be excited about the franchise and be interested in it. If you're a Smash fan, I think just the cool parts of this character will really draw you in. I think he is a character that is he has some really unique mechanics to him, and I'm really interested to see what players kind of do with that.
And before we dive in a little bit more on some of the recent announcements in terms of how Joker operates in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, Joe, I want to ask just a little bit more again as a Joker and a Persona newbie. I understand that Joker kind of debuted in Persona 5, but obviously it's Persona 5. There's been other Persona games, other spin-off games, and it's a hugely popular series. What is his connection, or is there any connection from him to the past games, or is each individual Persona game really kind of the start of a new story?
Yeah, so the core Persona games they don't really have a ton of crossover. There are some characters that you do see some crossover with. There's some characters in Persona 3 that do show up in Persona 5, or they're referred to. There are some other Persona spin-off games, Persona Q2, which is coming out on Nintendo 3DS. That's another game that Joker and the crew from Persona 5 will show up in. So there is some kind of crossover between the franchise, but for the most part, they are pretty standalone games.
Good to know. Okay, and JC, now talking about Joker coming to Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Like I said, we had the video come out, which shortly ahead of the actual character release, kind of talking a bit about, or actually in pretty good detail about how he operates in the game. So what are some of the key points you would draw people's attention to that really define how people are going to approach this character in Smash?
I guess I'd start with how quick he is. Joker is a very fast character. I would say probably one of the top 5 fastest characters in the game as far as movement speed, jump, fall rate, even just moving around and being able to read the different options if people come back to stage or even like going around, running around, getting items. He's very quick. So that's the first. The second, I think, with him is really learning how to manage and keep an eye on his gauge. Because when his gauge is filled, Arsene comes out, and Arsene will actually power up and change the way like some moves operate. Well, I guess kind of all the moves. And you have to kind of know.
Just to interrupt you there, Arsene, I think, is his, what Joe called his persona.
Ah, yes, that's right. Sorry about that. Yeah, Arsene is his persona. Kind of looks like a big, tall, blue, flamey guy behind him. And he's got a cool voice, by the way. You saw at the TGA trailer. And so he's there. And so as soon as the, I think it's called the Rebellion gauge, once the gauge fills, Arsene comes out, and then all his moves change for a certain period of time. After that, a lot of his moves kind of revert back to his normal state. So it's about knowing when you're taking damage, watching the gauge. When it's full, it auto activates, or if you know that the gauge is near being full, and you want to take advantage of Arsene, you could press down B, which actually, it's basically a counter. But instead of like actually countering and hitting the other person, it absorbs all that damage and boosts the gauge. So you can actually force Arsene to come out earlier if you knew that the other person was going to execute an attack, if you just, counter it correctly.
JC, here in the California office of Nintendo, Joe is the reigning office champion. We just had a tournament here for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. So next time you're down here, I want to see you two guys go head to head.
No, I've seen Joe play. Don't get me wrong. I was there. I was there when the finals were happening.
Right.
I watched it. I was totally watching it. Guys, if you're listening, Joseph Bustos is the real deal. Guys, he's for real. I'm not sure if I could touch him.
You're just hyping me up. I'm not that great.
Look at this, dude. Now everyone's gonna be hunting for you. You got a target on your back now, Joe.
Oh man. Well, I'll just bring my trophy over to the Redmond office and put it on the line and see what happens.
So thinking about, again, Joker stages mementos in the game. And I think, Joe, you mentioned some of the visual qualities that change, the colors, things like that, along with the music, depending on what music is being played. Would you say, JC, that there's anything about this stage that kind of lends itself well to kind of the character's qualities, or is it something that is kind of equally good for anyone?
Character's qualities. As far as
I was just going to say, personally, I love playing as Simon Belmont, and I love when I'm playing in Dracula's stage. There's that little kind of hill or not so hill, but kind of a ledge on the right side that's at just the right angle, or if someone's trying to get back on the stage, I can arc that axe over the top and hit them and keep them from coming back. So I don't know if there's anything, considering Joker's abilities that just fit perfectly well with that stage.
Come to think of it, I would actually view his stage as almost like a modified battlefield, if you will. Like, it's pretty balanced. Again, I'm talking about just jump where the platforms are, like where the ground is, where the platforms are. I will say some platforms come in and they come out, especially the one on the right with the speakers. There'll be a platform that'll drop from the ceiling, it'll come down for a little bit, and you can't fast fall through it. So, having said that, I think Joker's aerial attacks are really strong. They're fast and they're multi-hit. So I could see people, if you're Joker on that stage, approaching people and really attacking people, actually, if they're up above you, being really not afraid and just getting up there. So it doesn't hurt so bad if you're, if you're below a character, if you have the space to, and the speed to run around and attack them while someone's falling on top of you. So that's one. The second, I think, is fun. Oh, I know. It's his side B. I think it's called Aha. It's also borrowed the name from attack in Persona 5, where he kind of throws, I think it's a card. He throws out a card and eventually does damage over time if it hits. And the card has some range, almost like almost like a PK Thunder, like that kind of space, but it doesn't hold the other character in place. It just kind of hits them once and then it's over. But the length, I should say the width or length of the platforms works really well. There's even slight elevation changes in the stage where, if you throw that the side B special just at the right angle, you can hit someone and they can't really run at you properly because they're just high enough to where it impedes all of their progress. They can't sneak under it, and it's really hard for them to jump over it because at that point they're probably too far away from you.
Yeah, I think that attack is going to be interesting because it's kind of like that Piranha Plant side B move where you get hit by it and all of a sudden you took a bunch of damage and had no idea because there is no knockback. So it's really interesting to see those kind of moves be implemented in the game.
And speaking of that the side B where he tosses the card, another way to actually play him, and I kind of tried doing this just recently, was I tried to just kind of see how much damage over time I could do relying on that side B special move, rather than kind of, throw out the side B move and then rush right in and use my speed. Why don't you could use your speed and run away. I mean, what's really frustrating is if someone's above you, Joker also has this really cool up B move where it's kind of like a grappling hook almost. So you can grapple onto a ledge, but you can grapple people right out of the sky. So if someone keeps jumping, short hopping at you, whatever, you just yank them and just, really hard, pull them down. And it's kind of vulnerable. It's really awesome. So, people should definitely take advantage of that.
That sounds great.
Another thing, I'd want to call out about the stage is that you see a couple of the party members from Persona 5 just kind of standing around the background. And, Mementos in Persona 5 is kind of this ongoing area that throughout the game you're constantly revisiting. And there are certain points where you're going throughout all the floors and then you take a rest on like one of the kind of waiting for the subway floors where you're just hanging out. And, that's kind of where you just see all the party members just hanging out and, ready to go for the next fight. So it is kind of interesting to just see them hanging out in the background. You get, again, a little bit more representation from the overall game versus just Joker. And I think that's another little touch that Mr. Sakurai and team have really kind of put in there to, make sure Persona 5 as, the whole game and the entire experience is getting really represented well.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things to see with all the characters in this game is just all the crazy attention to detail that comes through.
Yeah.
And all of these representations.
Yeah. I mentioned it earlier, but just having the color of the stage change based on which Persona game music that you're choosing, that's such a cool little touch that, it just really, really brings like that franchise representation that I think that team is just so good at doing and implementing in the game. It's really awesome.
Now, JC, to wrap up kind of our Joker discussion here, it sounds like, from what you said earlier, it sounds like people that are just starting to learn the character, some things they're going to want to pay attention to and maybe build on are his speed. You said he had some good aerials. And in his persona form, like really working to build that up quickly and get those buffs. Anything else you'd add to that? Or is there's pretty much the three things that new Joker players should really be focusing on?
If I was a new Joker player, I would also take the time and, going back to the style, I'd encourage everyone to try his Final Smash. His Final Smash it's incredible. If you're taking a look at what we announced, recently, you take a look at that particular animation, and if you've played Persona 5, you know exactly what that animation's from. The character call-outs, when they have the little text blurbs at the top, you can see all of that. The little sparkles, when the silhouettes are out at the very end, the text and the banners at the bottom and the side. It's so cool, and it's so done, so true to who Joker is. And it's really an homage to that character of the series and really being super respectful. And I thought that's such a great touch. So definitely use that. And by the way, it goes forward and it comes back. So just because you thought you jumped over it, don't be trying to land where he just was, because he'll come right back and hit you in the face. So be careful.
Yeah, I got to say, the first time I saw that Final Smash animation, I was pretty blown away as a Persona fan. It's so true to the game. And just kind of, if that ends the match and the way it kind of leads into the victory screen, which is also just taken straight out of a battle from Persona 5, it's really something special. And I think it's just, just really shows the attention to detail that they've put into this game.
Yeah, and really plays up that cool style you guys were talking about before. You definitely get the impression that Joker is a real cool dude.
Yeah, it's definitely got a lot of style.
Cool. Now, along with Joker comes the free 3.0 update, which has a couple of significant new additions. JC, what can you tell us about those?
Yeah, so in the update 3.0, version 3.0, it's available to everyone. Everyone gets Stage Builder, yay! So if you want to make your custom stages, there's a lot of cool stuff in there. My favorite thing is I actually made a stage that's kind of like a jar, and I like making jars, and then there's these little switches you can put on surfaces, and if you hit a switch, you can make a platform rotate. You can make a platform have gravity, and it will fall, or you can set a platform on a track, right? Or you can... what else can you do? You could draw an island that looks like a shark, and you can have that move on a track, and then you can have blue water at the bottom or something, and then you have like this, this shark level, or there's a lot of opportunities for people to be really creative with all of the ways they can create a platform and animate things and turn and rotate stuff. I mean, it's pretty robust. And it also helps that if you're playing in, handheld mode, you can just draw with your finger and just boom, I want a weird squiggly shape, and you can make that and you can test it within a matter of a second or two. So really cool stuff as far as Stage Builder. The other stuff that's in 3.0 that I really like is kind of the connection with Smash World. And I think a lot of people will get a kick out of this, especially if you're the kind of person that searches for Smash Brothers content outside of the game, or, if you see like a really cool Spirit Team or something, you can sync your data up with, the Nintendo Switch Online app. And inside of that, that's where it's kind of where Smash World lives. And if you go into the Smash World app, you can actually... load all the spirits you have on your save game, create a new spirit team, and then, you can load that back onto your save game. So that's pretty cool. So you can custom create spirit teams. Another great feature of Smash World is, I like doing this a lot. There's kind of like this opening screen where it rotates through all the cool stuff that everyone's sharing. I love looking at other people's stages, because from here, let's just say there's a stage that's really high. It's really cool, right? Everyone's downloading it. You can basically go, to a stage, and it'll, it should appear, popular stages should appear in the list. And if you like it, all you got to do is just tap it with your finger and then tap, basically send to your system. So when you get home, you just hit sync. There's actually a little sync button there, and you have that stage ready and raring to play the moment you get back. So, a lot of great ways for people and fans to interact with Smash Brothers, even though they don't have their Nintendo Switch in front of them.
Yeah, I love that, being able to, it seems like that's all I talk about on the show the last couple of episodes, is how much I love the Super Mario Maker games, how much I'm looking forward to the next one. But that whole thing that I really got in the mode of with the first Super Mario Maker of creating stuff and then putting it out there and hoping it has a good response, seems like I'm going to really be able to dig into that same kind of thing here, sharing levels that I've made, seeing what people think. And then with the videos, sharing those as well. New video editing options are a part of the update, so you can splice together different scenes, add subtitles and sound effects, and really put your own creative spin on the content and put it out there, see what everybody thinks.
Yeah, I'm really, really excited to put together all of my Ganon F Smash montage videos. No, I'm just joking. Speaking to Stage Builder again, Chris is kind of our resident maker over here, and I'm really curious to see kind of what you do with this tool and how you kind of pick it apart and make some really cool stages, because you are kind of the best creator in Mario Maker that I know, at least. So I'm really,
most
really
persistent,
excited.
at least.
High praise.
Maybe I can build a level that just has some inherent advantages to me that you don't know about, and maybe that way level the playing field a little bit and have a shot against you.
All right, we're gonna have to make that happen after we have our 1v1 Mario Kart 8.
Yeah, that's right. That challenge is still on the table.
Still on the table. They talk about Chris like in hushed tones around the office that he's lapped them before so hard in Mario Kart 8. Like, this man, they talk about him like he's just so amazing. And I think I'm okay at Mario Kart, so I kind of want to see how that goes. But I'm also a little nervous because he does seem to be the real deal.
I don't know. You got me worried though. If you're already the undisputed office champ at Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, and then you take away my Mario Kart title, that's too much power in the hands of just one person.
No, I don't know. Yeah, maybe we shouldn't do this.
What are you talking about, man? Maybe we should do this. This is what we put on YouTube or something, man. I want to see it.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll have to make it happen at some point.
Yeah, it'll definitely happen. All right, well, thanks so much, guys, for all that information about Joker and for Joker coming to Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. He's basically out around the same time that this episode's coming out, so can't wait to see everybody dig in and see what they really come up with for that character. So now we're going to move over to Pros Picks. As always, this is where we talk about games that we're all playing here recently. And JC, you want to start us off? What's been? I don't know that you've had a lot of time with everything else you've got going on and the launch of all this content here for Super Smash. But if you have had any spare moments, what have you been filling them with?
I've been filling them with a couple games, actually. The first one is actually going back and completing a lot of the co-op challenges in Mario and Rabbids. Kingdom Battle, because my wife and I, we love playing through the game, and she's trying to 100% everything, and so the last thing on our list there is to try and 100% all the co-op ones on all difficulties. Man, it's no joke, man. That stuff is hard. It's, again, huge shouts out to the dev team, because I really, really do love that game, and if you haven't played it, you're missing out. The second game I've been on recently is I think it was Mike Grimm that told me about this when I was last in your guys' office down there in Redwood City, is Baba Is You.
Great game.
Man, what a brilliant set of, what a brilliant game. I mean, it hurts my brain. I mean, I come out with a mild sinus headache after that, but it hurts so good. I just want more of it. So, and my wife and I do solve those puzzles together. I think those are the big two outside of, I think that's about it. Those two games are definitely at the top of my list right now.
Stephanie, in the last episode, talked about Baba Is You, so I'm getting I'm feeling a lot of excitement here to finally go check that game out myself.
Yeah, I've had multiple moments where I'll pull up a puzzle in that game and just stare at it for 30 minutes. I think this happened when I was flying back from PAX, and I pulled up the game on the airplane, no headphones in or anything. I just stared at the puzzle for the longest time. I'm like, I'm not getting this. I don't know what's wrong.
Yeah, I heard it gets tough.
Yeah, it is pretty tough, but it's just an amazing game. Kind of the way that they play with all the different elements is ingenious. So huge kudos to that dev team.
Yeah,
well, that's 3 recommendations I've heard right here on the show. Then I've got to check it out.
Yeah, I think to talk just one more thing about that game, what I think I really do love about it, specifically Baba's You, is specifically the way you have to think. Not in the way that you want to. You have to break your way of thinking every single time you approach a puzzle, and it's very rare for, a puzzle game to ask that of the player, of just to rethink what you think you know, and to learn something new every single time you complete a puzzle. That's that. Oh, and do you mind if I add one more game to my list, Chris?
Sure, go ahead.
Yoshi's Crafted World.
Yeah.
Oh man, there is few games that make me feel so good and loved and smiling after every level, and I think that's right now that keeps me grounded. No matter how busy of a day, no matter how hard the days are coming, and there's a lot of work to be done, I can always go home and spend some time with Yoshi and Poochie, and just smile, nice big smile, and just relax, and it's the best. It really is.
Yeah, there's one of those great moments in that game where Yoshi is kind of just sitting at the bus stop and just waiting for the bus to arrive. And every time I think about that game, I think I'll think about that moment. It's just a huge smile on my face when I was playing it.
Yeah, I said last episode that I just started playing the game. I think I was 2 levels into it, and I've since played a lot more of it and just keep loving it more and more. I'd heard this about the game before, that it's constantly introducing new elements, and that's something I really noticed myself while playing it and appreciated, whether you're kind of riding in that giant robot type Yoshi, or there's the whole level based around kind of gobbling up magnets and then spitting them out in certain places to activate puzzles. So there's always something kind of new to fool around with, which I really appreciate. And I've been playing it with my son in 2-player, and it works great for that. It does kind of infuriate me sometimes when we finish a level and we haven't collected everything, which is actually hard to do on a first playthrough, all the red coins, all the flowers and everything. But that just gives me a reason to go back and enjoy the level again. So so far it's just been a lot of fun.
Yeah, the Go-Go Yoshi robot. If this is a game that you're planning to 100% and do everything in, I'll just say you got to get good at that mini game.
It's so hard, dude.
Yeah.
It is really hard.
This is a game that's fairly easy on the surface level, but if you really make it your mission to kind of take on those extra challenges and collect everything, it can get pretty tricky.
Yep.
And I'm not even halfway through, but I can already see that.
Yeah, totally.
Cool. So, Joe, what have you been playing besides, Yoshi and Baba Is You?
Yeah, I've been spending a lot of time going back to Wargroove. And, I think like JC, I have a little bit of that strategy itch right now, waiting for Fire Emblem Three Houses. And then this is really kind of just hitting the sweet spot for me. But, one thing I want to call out is the devs for that game have really done a great job of updating it and kind of just listening to what the fans are saying and adding some really great quality of life features. One of them being just being able to add a single checkpoint in between a mission instead of having to start over if, the mission goes the wrong way for you. And, just kind of softening the difficulty in some ways too. For me, it's really made the game a lot more approachable because those games can be really punishing. But it really is kind of scratching that itch for me in terms of a grid-based, turn-based strategy game. So I'm pretty excited about that one.
Yeah, I've been having fun with that too. I've been playing it online and it works really well there too.
Yeah, is it asynchronous online where you kind of take a turn and then somebody else takes a turn?
Yeah, it's pretty much just like they were next to you on the couch. You kind of, you move all of your units and then it's their turn. They move all of theirs. And it's kind of a good game for that because since it's the kind of game you sit and think about, it just works really smoothly and really great. And, and when the other team is taking their turn, sometimes I'll pay attention or sometimes I might, listen to a podcast or something like that. So it's just a nice, lazy Sunday afternoon.
Nice. One other game I did want to call out is I'm playing the Ace Attorney trilogy for the first time. I've actually never played this franchise before, which you might think is a little surprising because I'm a Persona fan, big JRPG guy, and just haven't touched it before. And it's really interesting just kind of, experiencing the story for the first time. I've heard a lot about Phoenix Wright as a character, so being able to get to know him a little bit in his early days, and then also kind of just going through the different court cases and then just looking to find all of the different contradictions in what people are saying, where the lies are. So it's a really cool game. And it's just, I'm kind of wondering how I didn't get to it sooner.
That's cool to hear. That's one of those I mentioned last time that I've never tried a game in that series either, although I've always been very interested in it. So that's, now that it's out on Nintendo Switch, that's on my definite to play list.
Yeah, I think you should give it a try for sure.
Yeah.
Joe, I will say that I expect to hear a hold it or an objection from you like in a meeting at some point, right?
Yeah, I think I'm going to have to do that. Okay. Next time, it's just going to come out of nowhere. Now that you've said it, I have to give it some time to wait a little bit and then... I'm just going to drop it on you.
Yeah, dude, drop it on a large group, especially one with executives in it. That'd be really good. Really tactful.
Yeah, I'll just see myself out. And
yeah, JC, if no one else in that room gets it, you still have to laugh.
Oh, I'll still laugh. Even if I'm the only one laughing, I will laugh if someone drops an Ace Attorney joke. I will.
The only person laughing, meanwhile, I'm just sweating profusely.
You'll be fine.
For myself, I've mostly been playing Cuphead. I'd played this game before on other platforms, and I was really excited to play it on Nintendo Switch. And so as soon as I got my hands on it, I dove right in, and I was happy to see that even though I was a little rusty, all of the patterns and stuff that I spent so long memorizing on my prior playthroughs still held up, and I managed to do pretty well and make the game look a little easier than it really is, because when you're first learning about the game, it can be quite challenging. But of course, the challenge of the game is really playing things enough times to really learn about each phase of each boss. Because most levels are boss fights with a few side-scrolling run and gun portions sprinkled in. But also, one of the things that helps is learning, and I've spent a little bit more time doing this on this playthrough, is buying up all the different kind of items and weapons you can get, and really figuring out just the right combination for each situation, which, if you've got, for example, the gun that will automatically, heat seek onto the bad guys, that can make a big difference in different situations. So really enjoying that. And it's been great to just pull the game out in handheld mode I was actually waiting for my car to get serviced the other day, and I was just stuck there for 3 hours. And I just said, well, I'm just going to pop in here and see if I can't improve the grades that I'd already received on the bosses I'd already beaten. And I was able to get everybody on that first island up to like an A or A+. So I'm trying to, again, max everything out before I move on to the next chunk of the game. So I've just been really enjoying that. And then also, like I said, Yoshi's Crafted World. And something I haven't played a ton of, but it gave me a big smile to see it come back, was Donkey Kong 3, the Arcade Archives version, and Nintendo eShop.
That's with a game. Stanley?
Yeah, that's kind of the forgotten missing link of the Donkey Kong, lineage that I remember from the arcades back in the day. I don't think we ever saw Stanley again, except he might have been a trophy in a Super Smash Brothers game at some point. But that is just such a weird, different Donkey Kong game where you're basically shooting bug spray at Donkey Kong while he's throwing bees at you and things. It's just bonkers, but always happy to see that classic stuff come back.
Yeah, and I will say that Bill is a big fan of that game too. You mean Stanley? I'm like, what? Stanley, the character in Donkey Kong 3. I'm like, I remember the first time he mentioned it to me, I was like, what are you talking about? But that's actually the first time I actually played that game. So I can vouch for Chris where it's like, oh, this is not what I was expecting, but it's a heck of a lot of fun, that's for sure.
Yeah. In classic arcade style, there's not a ton to it, but it takes a lot of skill to master it. So it's fun to just keep reworking it over and over.
Yeah, Chris, backing up to Cuphead a little bit. Two things about that game, right? The way it looks, I think, is a little deceiving because at first you might not expect it to control so well. Mm-hmm. And I think that's one of the coolest things about it is it's just controls so tightly. It's really responsive. And you need that because the game demands a lot of you as a player, especially if it's your first time playing. It's a pretty tough game.
That's a great point because in the past you've seen games that have great, incredible, very smooth animation, but sometimes that does get in the way of like a snappy responsiveness in the controls, but that's not the case here.
Yeah. And then, the second thing, again, with the game being so tough, one of the things I love that it does is every time you die, it shows you kind of how far you got to the end of the fight. And it just gives you like that immediate feedback. You're like, oh, I got so close. If I just try one more time, I think I can get past that like last little third, right? And for me, every time I play it, I'm just like, when I, get really close and end up dying, I just think back like, well, if I just didn't make that one mistake, if I, saved, didn't get hit early on, I think I can just like close that last gap. And it's just a really nice kind of like loop, right? Every time, instead of feeling like you're being punished so hard for every little boss fight. So that's one of the things I really love about that game. And I think other games that do have that kind of boss fight and that level of difficulty could definitely do with.
Yeah, and I think most people are probably aware of this. I think we even touched on it in the last episode when we talked a little about the game, but you can play the game one or two players. And I think when you're playing it single player, it seems like if you can, actually, if you've got the skills enough to take these bosses on yourself, the fights can go quite a bit faster because I think either you do more damage or they're more susceptible to damage. I'm not sure how it works, but you kind of go through each phase a bit quicker. But at the same time, you kind of don't have a safety net if you do lose, all three of your hits. But if you're playing two player and your character loses and you kind of turn into your ghost form and you're floating off the top of the screen, if the other player can get to you fast enough, he can kind of do a parry on your ghost basically, right, which brings you back into the game. So there's a couple ways to approach it. So the game can either be harder or easier either way, kind of depending on how you're playing it. It's a little tougher, like I said, to beat the bosses with two players, but you can keep bringing each other back to life if you're quick. So so that's something else you consider. If the game's a bit challenging, we'll try playing it the other way. If you're a single player, try two player.
Yeah, totally.
Now, if this doesn't solidify Chris's, legitimacy at Mario Kart, I'm trying to better my time and scores and grades in Cuphead. I think this proves that Chris is probably not a fraud. So,
well,
kudos to you, man.
By the time you finally get over the hump and you learn the patterns of the bosses enough to actually survive, honestly, you're only a few kind of extra little tries away from basically doing it perfect anyway. So I go back in there and say, now that I know how to do this, let's see if I can just polish it up a little bit.
Oh, man. Okay, I'm never playing against you, Mario Kart. Forget it.
All right, Chris, we'll see you in the Cuphead speedrun competition.
Oh, dude. Okay, I'd like to see that.
I would love to see that.
All right, maybe if we have that in the office, that's one more thing I could hang in on.
Chris destroys the rest of the office, and everybody else is. I will
say for the record, in that same Super Smash Bros. Ultimate tournament that you won, I got knocked out in the first round. So there's a lot of gaps here in my
different games, you know.
Yeah. All right, well, moving on to Warp Zone. This is the quiz we have every episode where I give hints and you guys try to guess games that came out 10, 20, and 30 years ago. This time we're going to be looking at games that were released during the month of April. So you guys ready?
Let's do it.
Sure.
Great. All right. Well, 10 years ago, this is April of 2009. The clues are Nintendo published a wacky game for Nintendo DS where you held the system sideways like a book and used your stylus to tap along with robots, singing frogs, and kids in a chorus. Any guesses?
Is this?
I'll let Joe go first.
JC has a big smile right now.
Oh, man. Is this WarioWare?
Kind of close. It's kind of cut from the same cloth, but not the WarioWare series.
I'm guessing Rhythm Heaven then.
Yep, that's it. JC, that's what you were going to say, right?
Yeah, because I was the project manager for Rhythm Heaven. Oh, I was been the project manager for Rhythm Heaven for the last for all the iterations. The first one, Gold, and the one on Wii, because I remember that weird A and B thing where you squeeze the Wii remote. So yeah, I'm huge. I love that game. Always have, always
series.
will.
Yeah, it's a great series.
It's one of that original game and also the ones that would come later on handheld, I think, are some of the best handheld games ever because they fit that pick up and play format so well.
Yep, and it also teaches you what you think rhythm is and how good your timing is for sure. It exposes you real fast.
I know. I had to learn that the hard way, but I think it actually improved my rhythm, so...
It will.
Yeah, it wasn't just for fun playing that game. All right, 20 years ago, this is in April of 1999, the clues are... Nintendo added another great multiplayer game to the N64 that was played in 2D despite the system being known for 3D games like Super Mario 64, and started development under the working title Dragon King: The Fighting Game.
Oh, JC, this is too easy for you.
Why are you calling me out, man? No, you first.
Super Smash Bros.
That's it. Can you guys believe that it has been 20 years exactly to this month since the first installment of Super Smash Bros.?
It's crazy.
That's nuts. I can't even comprehend. I'm surprised you were born, Joe.
Well, we have the 30-year question coming up, and I didn't exist yet, so
this will be good.
Yeah.
Looking back at that first Super Smash Bros., can you believe there was just 8 starting characters with, I think, an additional 4 unlockable? And now you look at what the series has evolved into.
Yeah, I think everybody has that moment when they boot up Smash Ultimate for the first time and they see how big the images are with the characters, and you're like, whoa, this was that?
That's right, because that's the original cast from the first game is what you start with in the new one until you unlock everyone else. Yeah. Cool. All right, here we go. 30 years ago, April of 1989, a pre-Joe era. HAL published a game for NES in which a hero resembling a blue jawbreaker puzzled his way from room to room inside a castle, obtaining jewels to open locked doors, on an adventure to rescue Princess Lala from the Great Devil's evil empire. Any guesses?
Ooh, okay.
Some studious looks here.
I'm gonna take one guess, and I only got one. I want to say something. I can't remember the name of it. Maybe like Popo's Adventure or something.
Somewhat close, but not quite.
Or maybe it's probably not Lolo's something. I swear it's some kind of repeating name.
You're circling it.
Yeah, you're thinking of Adventures of Lolo.
It could be that. Maybe that's the right order.
That's it. You guys work together. It is Adventures of Lolo, and that's a little bit of a deep cut. I'm surprised you guys got that one. Good job.
Yeah. Well, JC kind of got halfway there.
Well, the only reason why is you said Lala and blue. I'm like, I could have sworn some blue circle thing on something Lola or whatever. Maybe that's related to Lala. Just so. Thanks for the clue, Chris.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I just started playing that for the first time because it's in the NES collection that's included with Nintendo Switch Online, and it's pretty fun. It's a puzzle game primarily. It holds up pretty well.
Nice.
All right, well, guys, we're not going to have Players Pulse or Game Forecast this time since we just had an episode earlier in the month. So that's it. JC and Joe, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Cool. Thanks for having us.
Appreciate the time. Thank you very much, dude.
That's it for this episode of Nintendo Power Podcast. If you have any comments or questions you'd like us to consider answering on the show, you can email us at nintendopowerpodcast@noa.nintendo.com. Also, we always appreciate it if you can leave us a review, and be sure to subscribe so you get new episodes as soon as they're ready. Thanks for listening, and keep playing with power.